art belongs to us all. Whether it's singing, acting, dancing, playing a musical instrument, fine arts, creating, that belongs to us all.
Welcome to Opera Central, where artists and administrators come together and talk about the world of the arts. My name is Teila Theisen, and I'm the Audience Development Manager at Central City Opera. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Young, founder of EDIA Stages, and Ana Luna Uribe, director with the Alliance for Music Education Equity. Both of these organizations are leaders in EDIA work in performing arts here in Colorado. And just so we're clear, the term EDIA stands for inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And today we'll be talking about the power of these initiatives both on and off the stage. So let's get to know a little bit more about our guests today. Lisa Young is a Black actor and activist, or Blacktivist, and founded her organization Ideas after realizing that COVID-19 was thought to be more dangerous to art than its history of systemic racism and discriminatory practices. Her work at Ideas brings equity and access to performing arts stages in Colorado. Lisa also serves on the Colorado Theater Guild Board and is a drama teaching artist at Boston P8 in Aurora, Colorado. So welcome, Lisa. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
And Ana Luna Uribe is a French Colombian violinist, educator, and nonprofit arts administrator, currently based here in Denver, Colorado. She is a freelance performer and is also working as the site coordinator for El Sistema Colorado and the director for the newly formed Alliance for Music Education Equity. Ana Luna is the founder of the live stream project Performers for Change, which gives performing artists a chance to perform while benefiting causes they believe in. She loves thinking outside the box in terms of what music could look like in her community and is passionate about making music accessible to everyone. Ms. Uribe holds a bachelor's in violin performance from Florida State University and a master's in violin performance from the Lamont School of Music. So welcome, Ana. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And we are so fortunate. We at Central City Opera are so fortunate to have both of you here. And I'm going to ask the question that I wish more of us were asking each other these days. How are you? Lisa, why don't you start? How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of irate with the world right now, especially with what's going on in Asian communities and, this whole way that we are framing white terrorism in this country. So to be honest with you, I am not in a good space mentally about those issues, but physically I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the best we can say now living in a pandemic. I've been fully vaccinated. So far I can say I'm fine and I'm ready to get out of my basement and see the world again.
And
so
do
thank
the
you for
work.
asking.
Ready to do the work. How about you, Ana? How are you today?
Yeah, I would like to echo everything Lisa just said. I think this week for me has been one of just like feeling really mentally scattered and a little bit I think like I go in phases of being angry at the world and then like setting myself down again and being like, okay, it's okay, there are things that we can do to fix these things, and that's why Lisa and I are here as well. But yeah, I really want to send love to like the Asian community today, and just really say that the way that media and just whiteness represents all of these acts of, we're going to call them what they are, terrorism, is frankly just so disturbing. And even with the past year of what we've been seeing of all of this social unrest, the fact that nothing has still changed, in the way that things are portrayed are very upsetting. And so I really want to echo everything Lisa's saying. So, but physically, I started working out this week again, which I have not done in a very long time. And so I've actually been feeling like really good in my body, even though maybe mentally I'm not quite matching that. So yeah, I'm alive and healthy, and I'm on the waiting list for a vaccine. So, because El Sistema is going back to working with the kiddos next month. So,
Yes.
yeah. But thanks for asking, Teila.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that we always remember that whatever you're bringing to the space is valid. So many times when we sit down to have these conversations as professionals, we think that we should separate the realness of what we're feeling and how we're talking about, but then we wouldn't be authentic in this work if we did that every time. So we should also invite the viewers to whatever space that you're in right now is valid, and it's okay if it's not great. Because
And that
that's where
being
change comes.
said, how are you, Teila?
I can echo what you're saying. You know, it's interesting. The mind and body connection is so there. I know as artists, all of us as performing artists, we recognize that. There's so many times when they don't match. And for me, I feel the difference in my physical body and how I'm showing up to my spaces when I'm not mentally there. And the hardest thing in this work, and I know you both agree with the activism you do, is it's so hard to go to bed feeling unsettled and that there's unrest in the world, because then you wake up not sure what it's going to be tomorrow, and that hamster wheel can get very tiring. So in a way, you know, it definitely frames our conversation for today, but it also makes our conversation today even so much more valid. It's something we should be talking about every day. So I guess it's good timing in a way. Yeah, thank you for asking. And I think we really want to give both of you a platform to talk about what your organizations do today and your background. So I'm going to give you some time to do that. And if you could also share the pronouns that you use and give a physical description of yourself, that would be great for our viewers as well. So Lisa, would you like to start?
Oh, certainly. And don't forget, I don't always have to go first.
Okay.
I love it. So my name is Alicia Young, and I use she, her pronouns. I identify as a Black cisgendered woman living with physical and cognitive disabilities, also PTSD from strokes and other abuses in my teens and as a youth. I live on the unceded lands of Parker, Colorado, of the Cheyenne, the Nguhu Afu, Tuvupu, the Neoshetti Sakoan. Today, I am a beautiful Black buxom bronze goddess who is wearing my long locked hair in a low ponytail. I am wearing red glasses for vision, and I have on a Black t-shirt that reads Black Girl Magic, and I am sitting in front of a purple background, which is just a beautiful color that brings me peace. So that's me.
Thank you. Anna?
Hi, everyone. So I'm Ana Luna, and my pronouns are she, her, ella for my Spanish speakers as well. I am originally of French Colombian descent. I grew up in a household speaking French and Spanish. English was learned in school. I'm from Miami, Florida originally, a place that's very near and dear to my heart. And I'm first and foremost a violinist, but have now thrown myself into this arts administration work. And I'd like to say Lisa is an activist. I don't define myself as an activist because I would say I'm more of like a community facilitator, but I want to give the respect that activists deserve in that like they are fighting on the front lines of this thing and like speak out just every single second of every day. And I'd like to acknowledge Lisa for that. And I am currently in Denver, Colorado, which is Ute, Arapaho, and Cheyenne territory. I am in my living room I'd like to say I have like this very nice, beautiful plant behind me with this. My mother made this. She's a ceramist and teacher. Um, and I am a white passing Latina woman. I have very, very long hair that I have not cut in like 2 years. I'm wearing some gold hoops, a black t-shirt. I am fully able-bodied. And yeah, it's great to be here with you beautiful people.
Thank you. And while we're talking about the work that you do in your organizations, Anna, I was reading that Amy's mission states that it ensures access to ongoing active musical life for all people in Denver. Can you elaborate on what that looks like for you? What does an ongoing active musical life for all people in Denver look like? I just love that phrasing.
Yeah, and I'd like to also say I've been in this director role for only 2 months. Amy is brand new. It's been completely volunteer run for about a year now, and they finally got some funding to hire a part-time director. So that's me, and I've been living in this role for only 2 months. So I think anything I have to say is like very new and comes with fresh perspective. I think to me, what this mission means and ensuring that all students have active participation in a musical life comes with everything that encompasses a musical life, which means early childhood education. It means being able to attend community events, concerts, making sure that those are financially accessible as well. As a classical violinist and someone who was trained in a conservatory system, in a system that it is very rooted in white supremacy, I think accessibility issues a lot tend to come from tickets being too expensive, and I'm speaking to orchestra specifically right now because that's the world I know, really not reflecting the communities that they are living in and playing in and breathing in. And I think luckily a lot of orchestras and a lot of institutions are having to take a good hard look at themselves lately. And hopefully that's gonna come with some good change. But an active musical life would mean that if a student wants to take a piano lesson, there is somewhere for you to do that. There is an organization out there, or several, or all of them, that is there to support that child, regardless of who that child is, in some kind of development through a musical life. That doesn't mean we're developing performers all the time. That just means that we're allowing children to access music in any way that they so wish to do that. And I think for children who do want to become performers, then ensuring that we're providing the space and training for them to do that and move into a professional setting and be prepared. And I think when it comes to attending events in your community, that's something that organizations also struggle with, right? They struggle with, well, we're not accessing the communities we need. But I think until you're reflecting what that community looks like and really getting to know your community, then the accessibility is not going to happen. People are not going to want to come to your concerts or your events. So I think, an active musical life is a term that's very broad. And I think, unfortunately, with nonprofits come like these very broad statements like grandeur, and we often don't really dig down and like see what that means. But I would just say it's a community that is really like fostering its children and like what the children need and want. Because so often as administrators, we talk about what people need, but I don't think we necessarily always know what that is. So yeah, that was I know I went into a lot of things, but that's kind of my very broad answer to that very broad statement that is a part of Amy's history.
No, you're very much speaking to these both visible and invisible barriers to the professionalism of this industry. And so I know that both of your organizations are working on making that access a reality for everybody, because art is culture. It's not elitist. And Lisa, you have been building your organization ideas or idea stages. I would love to hear more about how you fostered this idea and how it came to fruition and just what y'all have been working on
So,
lately.
I think what I'll do is I'll start with our vision and mission statement just as a grounding space. So our mission statement is we galvanize theater makers to take demonstrable action towards inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And then our vision statement is we envision a more vital and relevant theater that celebrates and amplifies the voices, stories, talents, and abilities of all people by revolutionizing how decisions are made and who is making them. So to go back, I think of idea stages or ideas as a baby. It is a little baby that I dreamt about having for a very long time. I've been an actor since I was a child. I lived in New York City, and I want to say to Ana Luna that when I was little and I would go, and this was when I was a part of the public schools in New York City, and I would go to the symphony orchestra and go to ballet and to the theater. That's where my dreams, began. And the galvanizing point for me was seeing the staged musical The Wiz. When I saw Stephanie Mills up there, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can do this too. There's somebody who looks like me, sounds like me. I can do this too. I mean, I had seen it on television, but to see like live breathing humans that I could touch and have the same background, the same ethnicity, the same experiences as myself, as this little tiny child, that was the catalyst. That was like, oh, what? It's not just white people who do this. And I love that you are speaking to pipelines. So I'm going to jump back to what you asked, Teila, in just a second, but I want to celebrate the work that you're doing at Amy, Ana Luna, because it is so crucial that we draw little minds and little bodies into these arts. And what you said, Teila, is like, art belongs to us all, whether it's singing, acting, dancing, playing a musical instrument, fine arts, creating, that belongs to us all. We all have a shared human commonality that if you go back to see, cave drawings, hieroglyphics, we've always done art. We've always communicated through art. So I think it's important that our voices and our stories are told and heard. So I have been dreaming of a home, a theater home where I felt safe, where I felt celebrated and loved. And that is hard to find when I bring my intersectionality of being a Black disabled woman into, you know, into theaters, because that's not who is creating theater. And, it took for me, because in my bio, I do speak to being on the Colorado Theater Guild. I have been outspoken for a very long time about the inequities I saw in not only just, people think it's all about casting and roles, and it's so much more than that. It's like, who owns the theater, who's on the board, who's financing or funding theaters, because in the capitalism and white supremacy that we live in, that's who dictates the stories that are told and how they are told, the music that is played, the dance that is seen, the art that is hung on the wall. So for me, this dream started with, what if as a community we did better, right? And it was always there. I had always pushed to have, hey, let's have this diversity conversation. And for a very long time, it was like, oh, yes, it's great. We do need to have it. But, I'm so busy doing the business of doing the business, I don't have time. So when I do have time, yeah, let's get there. Let's have these conversations. And they just weren't being held, or people felt stifled. Right? Because if you're outspoken and you say something in this industry, that could mean the end of your career, right? And I think that's the difference, Ana Luna, is when you were saying I'm an activist, I got to a point where I was like, if I don't say something and the harm continues for people who look like me and who don't look like me, whose bodies work like mine and those who don't work like mine, when's it gonna stop? When are we gonna get to that place where people can be outspoken and have a voice? So during the beginning of the pandemic, I kept dreaming. And I'm telling you now, if you have a dream, listen to it, because that's the ancestors, the universe, God, all the fairy pixels and pixies and dust talking to you about what your true purpose is. And I had this dream that what if we all came together and made an agreement or made a foundation that we could do this art together with. And that brought forth our pillars that were co-written by several, almost 50 people, I think, had a hand in saying that. And the funny part, not funny, but the coincidence that happened at the same time is that We See You at American Theater came out, the demands that they made, and we aligned with so much that it was like, oh, did you draw this from that? I was like, no, the universe was talking to all of us at the same time, and I was talking about the house that I live in here in Denver and my roof falling in and killing me, right? So I started because I'm on the board, and I worked with theater for the Henry Awards. I started getting all of these Black Lives Matter statements, and then all of these, how do you want to come back from COVID statements, right? Would you feel safe if you did this? Or would you feel safe if we had hand sanitizers and seats separated and all those things? And I was like, how about I don't feel safe being a Black woman that's always playing a maid, the hooker, the prostitute, the drug addict, the evil, the heavy? How about if that doesn't set well with my feeling about being safe before we even get to a virus that we can in some way control, right? The transmission and spread of. What are we doing to control the transmission and spread of white supremacy, ableism, elitism, sexism, inequities of all types? I call them the isms and the phobias that, spring up in our bias that we live with. So that is, how almost a year ago, because it was on Juneteenth when I went live with what ideas would be. I got on the phone, I started calling friends, and I was like, what are you willing to say and do to make true change happen? And, a lot of theater companies, a lot of organizations, they will have an EDI statement, or they will have, their idea statement of this is what we, and so what's actionable about just this document you've created? What else are you doing? What are you doing to dismantle white supremacy within yourself? What are you doing to take a look at who's on your board? What are you doing when you are doing outreach to educational entities, when you're going into the community, and what are you doing to change the pipelines that don't give little kids who may not have all those opportunities, access to becoming something they might be dreaming about? So that was a lot, but that's where ideas sprung from. Was honestly, I listened to my dreams, and I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I have to say these things. I have to walk into my authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd love to highlight what you said about what is the personal journey you are taking? Because I think what I've seen a lot of is folks not realizing that it starts inside of your own body first. I'm a big proponent of restorative practices when speaking about social justice, or when approaching your social justice journey, your anti-racism journey. A lot of folks don't pay attention to how their body feels in certain spaces, or how their reactions may be affecting their bodies even more, right? So we're in this process of recreating trauma, which happens in all bodies. All bodies bear the trauma of white supremacy. It looks very differently, of course, and we need to take care of our Black and brown brothers and sisters first and foremost. But I think white bodies live with so much trauma from white supremacy as well. And what I see that, when I see that the most is in like extreme reactions and defensiveness, instead of really cultivating some reflection on like, why is my body tensing up? Why are my shoulders going like why am I having to fidget? Why do I not feel comfortable having these conversations? I think it starts inside of you first. And that's often a step that a lot of people forget to take. And then you have to take that into the workplace and really look at your, right, especially if you're in senior leadership or you're on the board or you really have kind of a pull in terms of decision making. It's like, then you have to look at your institution and like flip that upside down. And it's like, it's so much work. And I think a lot of folks, speaking to what Lisa said as well, as like just putting EDI statements out, the intention is good, the impact is not really happening. And so like, how can you look within yourself and then within your institution to like make impactful, actionable changes? And so something that I've been, I mean, it's only been 2 months, but developing with Amy is that of like making our organizational members, which are mostly largely white, present to us an actual institutional action plan that can look very differently depending on where the organization is. Everyone is at different stages in their journey. But what kind of action can you show us that you're going to take to get to that next step or that next level, to then, you know, over time, take your organization to a place that is truly equitable and making an impact on all people and making these changes and in a really severe way, which is what it's going to take. But I think that personal piece is something we forget a lot. So I just wanted to name what Lisa said because it's so important.
And it's a lifelong journey too. I think that's, if there was an outcome for this year that I would like leaders, individuals, everyone to hear, is it doesn't just take 3 months. It's lifelong. You're committing to this for a long time. And I think even for me, someone who's so passionate about these impacts, sometimes that overwhelms me. But now I find myself feeling comfortable, and I'm so excited to work on this with the commitment for the rest of my life. And I want to be surrounded by people that feel the same way. Some days my commitment might be stronger than others, or I might be more energized than others, but that's a huge shift that we all need to make. Is this is a lifelong journey that we're committing to making, to make these changes part of our new culture.
So I want to speak to that uncomfortableness. If you are uncomfortable, Ana Luna, you just talked about working out, right? And when you start working out again, those muscles start going, what are you doing? Stop it. I'm used to being sedentary and not moving and eating chips. Right? And I think we need to be more accepting of when we're uncomfortable, because especially in the work of allyship, you know, a lot of folks are saying they're allies, but then it's performative allyship, you know, that we have to be careful about. If you're not feeling uncomfortable about something, then you're not doing the work. You're not working it out. You're not exercising. My goal is to make us actionable. Dr. Ibram X. Kendi talks about, you know, being anti-racist, right? And when you're anti-racist, it's like shutting it down as soon as you hear it. It's not, I'm going to allow the racism to keep going and then I'll pull that person to the side. It's not being a racist. It is anti-fighting. And that is what's uncomfortable, is that your body is fighting, your brain, your physicality, your DNA, everything is fighting against what socially we have been brought up in. Right? So we should be uncomfortable. It should hurt, because this is work. It's not just something passive that is going to happen. And I love the fact that we are saying it's not 3 months. It's not a couple of workshops. It is ongoing work, because this has been around as long as humankind has been around. That we have found something different about someone else that we made fun of or othered or put off. So that's all I wanted to just say. be uncomfortable and enjoy being uncomfortable, because that means you are doing the work, you are questioning, right? And you're looking at things and going,
how do we feel now about these pieces, whether they're classic or whether they're written today, that are being developed by white people, if they're about the BIPOC community or if they're about the queer community? What sort of shifts need to happen if we're going to challenge the system? What needs to happen so that that can change? Because, and I'm sure, you know, Anna, with your background in classical, you can sort of understand the system as well. Do you have any advice or thoughts on that?
Hire a BIPOC person to tell their story, pay them the money they deserve to create their art, and then, you know, you're presenting a product that's like truly authentic. Because I think and Teila and I talked a little bit like a couple of days ago about like reactionary DEI work, and I think a lot of performing arts institutions specifically are wanting to say like, okay, well, let's program more diverse composers. I think diversifying curriculum and programming is really important, because we need to show people that not only white cisgendered men can produce art and music and theater and dance and all of these things.
If you can't, first of all, if you can't cast it correctly, have the right artistic directors, the right music directors, folks in there who come from a certain experience, leave it alone. And there's other work that you need to be doing. There's work that you need to be doing. And when I say you, I'm not talking about Central City specifically. I'm talking about predominantly white institutions and organizations. There's work that you need to be doing, and maybe pass the mic to some new folks who have other things to say. There is so much new work that is coming out that does not have a space to be, you know, to be seen. And that's where I am challenging folks to think forward and not backwards. And then if you are going to do those classics, then yeah, have a dramaturg or have a discussion that, you know, weighs what is proper, what is improper, why this came about during its historic time frame. You know, you can do this work, but if it's all you're doing, I have questions.
Lately, I think there has been a big push for institutions to like change, and so institutions are now facing this dilemma where it's like, okay, well, we need to like do it really quickly so people think we're not racist and and we're doing this and this and this, and like here we are, rather than stepping back, reflecting, right? So it's like, again, reflection versus immediate reaction. And saying, again, so for me, specifically right now, and what I've been thinking about is it comes back to like who is leading, who is making decisions. And so I think people are struggling with the fact that, you know, some of this work you need to do, like people won't hear about because there's nothing for you to, you know, this is internal work that needs to happen. And so people are struggling with like, well, we want to show that we're doing something. And for performing arts institutions, that unfortunately means, well, we're going to program this piece or this opera or this by a diverse composer, without really doing the internal work, because we need to show something. We need something to present to the general public.
But do you?
Exactly.
And then you're already bringing harmed and hurt people into spaces that aren't prepared for broken bodies and minds and spirits and passions, right? So do you have to? There's so much more you can be doing on, we have auditoriums, and auditoriums are meant for people to be heard, right? Start bringing folks in and talk about past harms and ask the community. I was a part of a community conversation. This was years ago. This was before COVID, before ideas. And we were brought in for this diversity conversation within the community. We were then told to write our questions down and hand them to a white man who was the artistic director or leader, whatever, ED of that company. And then he read our questions as he deemed them necessary to the conversation. There were panels that did not reflect the folks who were sitting in the audience. And it's like, we're doing the work, we're diverse. And it's like, are you? If you're, first of all, erasing my voice, I don't want you to get up and speak. I'll speak for you so I can tone police you or keep you in this nice little package that's acceptable and comfortable, right? So, Ana Luna, my question is, do you have to do the work to show that you are not racist or, and anti-racist? What else could you be doing while, and I think especially in opera because of its background, where it's developed from, there are conversations that need to be had. Why do we want to put on this show again and again? And how can we look at what it is, learn from it, and then move on? So sorry, Ana Luna, if I did that.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's, oh man. That's all I have to say. That's my response. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think as someone who was trained in like these classical institutions, I like had like I call them like horse blinders or like goggles on for so long, because you're trying to like work on your craft and do this one specific thing, and you forget to like step outside of your bubble and look at like what's really happening around you. And I've been a part of like harming people around me as well. I think that's something that I've started to name a lot more, because it's like I have harmed people through like work that I've done in the past, and like how can I now like reflect on that and have those conversations, and also ensure that like that won't happen again in terms of people surrounding me. So yeah, it's just so intricate, but also not at the same time, right?
Yeah, and I think I can definitely agree with what you're saying. I look back into my own repertoire as a performer, and sometimes I have to like cringe a little bit because I didn't put the Mikado on stage that year, but I did it, and I auditioned for it, and I got in, and I would never be a part of a piece like that today. And that's just one of many that I look back. Even in college, the term typecasting was so common, like being typecasted, at least you get the part, at least you get on stage, at least you get in the door. That was such a big part of my education. And I think I kind of, now that we're speaking about this, sort of want to talk a little bit about today's artists. What can we do today to help artists ensure that they're participating in companies or performing arts opportunities that are practicing equity? I think that's important. And I would like to see, younger artists behind me ensuring that they do that. Are there sort of signs or tricks of the trade that you can pick up to make sure that it's a place for you?
For ideas, we are right now working on something that is, we started calling it like being a designated idea stage. And I think what's going to happen is, as we move back to everyone getting back to doing the business of this business, which is acting, singing, performing, music, is we're going to have to hold each other accountable. And that has always been like the center of where I come from, is that, and especially now that we have this calling out versus calling in going on in society, it is okay to ask the question, well, what about this? And what are you going to do to change that? And I think that is a part of the process, is that if I, as a performer, come to your um, your space and you're like, oh no, we are very welcoming and open. And I tell you, well, I have cognitive, and I'm going to speak on disability now, not just, race and ethnicity. But if I come to you and I say, hey, I have a cognitive disability, I need a little extra time with my script. I need, to record my lines with the people that these are the ways that I have access needs. We need to move away from the ableism that is in art of, oh, she's lazy, she doesn't want to learn her lines or her part, or now everybody has to do all this extra work to accommodate this one person. Those are things that I've heard. Those are things that I've heard, and I have hidden disabilities. So could you imagine being, and I'm also a part of a theater company here in Denver called Family, which is PHAMALY, so Physically Handicapped Actors and Musical Artists League. And our 5 founders were individuals who use wheelchairs, and they were literally told, I can't get you on my stage. But then these are theater companies who bring motorcycles, cars, helicopters, and it's like, we are the most creative people on earth, but we can't be creative on accessibility, giving access to others and meeting people where they are. So yeah, before you start dragging bodies that work differently in there, women, folks who have been harmed because of the Me Too, not in our house safety standards that have been brought up in Colorado, Chicago, and other places. There's so much work that needs to happen, right? Before you start bringing those bodies in, because all you're going to do is cause more harm. And then open conversations, right? Let's say you have an actor that's coming in who needs to utilize a wheelchair, which is great. The thing is, you talk to that actor and you say, so how can we help you? Let's do a tour of our facility. Tell us what accommodations we need to make. And we have this amount of money. That's the other thing, is that we fundraise for everything and we budget for everything, but we don't budget for how to bring people who use wheelchairs onto stages. We don't budget, or we think that, ADA has a grandfather in because my building is old or whatever. That's not what ADA says. And stop, pushing those lies, right? Bring people in, have human connections and conversations. Because I'll be honest with you, working with folks in family, I've seen people who utilize wheelchairs overcome a speed bump, by being creative and saying, well, I can't attack it this way, let me do it this way. And if we have those open conversations, if we start listening, and I'm using disability as an example, but that stands for inequities in pay for women. That stands for, having white writers write Black stories. I'm using other examples of things. I was in a reading where a white woman told this story based on true events, but did not speak to living people who this story affected. So let's be a little more human. And even if you're not biblical, that thing about the golden rule, treating others as you want to be treated. If we went back to those, what's that book about everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten, right? Be nice, share, don't hit other people, don't be mean, all that list. I think that's like, it's so simplistic, we laugh at it, but it's real. It really is real. Asking people, so Teila, like you did today, how are you feeling today? Is there any, is there any access that you need today? And having the opportunity, even as a human without disabilities, to say, you know what, I woke up with a migraine today, I might need a break, but I will tell you that. And not having any judgment around that is just like, we've all had migraines. We all know, first of all, this person showing up on a day that they had a migraine is huge, right? So yeah, let's be a little more human.
If we can take this out and give any sort of closing thoughts to anyone in this industry listening, If you're a leader in this industry, do the work. I think the first question is, am I ready? Look at your administrative office, look at your board. If you're not seeing representation of your community there, you might not be ready. Do what needs to be done to get ready. And then as you show up and as you start, giving a platform for access to diverse groups of people, whatever that looks like, as reflected of your community, add the human element into every part, the audition space, the casting, after the casting, ask people what they need, because that, we said it here, we are creative people because of the stories that we carry within us. That's what makes us so good. So allow every artist to tell it in their own way. And I think, with that, we want to thank everyone for joining us on Opera Central today. A huge, huge thank you to both Lisa and Ana Luna for joining us. We want to make sure that you stay connected into the work that we're doing. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and to find more about Opera Central and other online programming, visit us at centralcityopera.org. And do you all just want to say how they can find your organizations and get more involved?
Sure. So ideastages.org, we are currently fixing and putting more content on our website. But if you go to the /pillars is where I really would like everyone to have a look at those pillars. Then also we are on Facebook right now is Idea Stages Community. Come on in, join us. That's where we have our mostly our conversation and our we have Outspoken, which is our series of just listening. It's a listening project where you come in, so you can go to ideastages.org. Oh my goodness, my mouth's not working. ideastages.org / outspoken. Right now we have several just webs. It's a web series where we just let people talk about the experience. So, and Luna?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of switching the Amy website to a real website, but right now we're on Google Sites. You can just search on Google Alliance for Music Education Equity. There's kind of a working website there. I'm working on also translating it. And right now, the main thing I'm trying to put together is our first leadership committee. Of folks who would kind of have a strong voice. And this organization is brand new. There's so much room for like building it the correct way. And so I've thrown out this application far and wide to even non-musicians and people in the community. So that's the first thing we're working on right now. And funders, if you're listening, hit me up. Because I think like the more financial backing we have, the more programs we can offer. We're really looking to start a community voice model where we would fund direct projects coming from students and the community, especially BIPOC, and like give them money because community has ideas and community is creative. And so yeah, we're definitely a little baby right now too, and I'm all on my lonesome from now, but hopefully with this leadership team we can start really building something special that the music education world, and I'm just speaking to music education because that's what I'm working within, like truly really needs. So
well, Ana Luna, I'd love to collaborate with you. So when we're done here, let's connect. I think we have a lot to do together, and I would love to work with you. So you too, Teila.
I'll send you that leadership committee application. So
Girl.
yeah, I think I have your email through anyway, we can yeah. Well, we will connect. Absolutely. Your work is incredible, and I'm just so excited to see it's your time. Like
it's our time. And
yeah.
Teila, I just want to say thank you for because this conversation is hard for opera. It really is, because you all have a long road. So thank you for the platform and listening, because that sometimes is the hardest part, is shutting up and listening, because I know that some some of us think we know it all. We have it and it's fixed. We're done. And we've said that today that, we
I don't
haven't.
know anything. I don't
I
know.
don't either. I don't either. And people come to me as, you are the expert. And I was like, you know what? I am learning too. And it's okay to make missteps as we're doing this learning together. What's not okay is to make a misstep, hurt someone, and keep plowing on through. So yeah.
Yes. We're all growing. Get uncomfortable in that
Oh
pain.
yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Please follow us, and we hope to talk with you all soon. Thank you.